Hello, friends. We're going over some wild news from Poland. From a 15-year-old girl, Steve, being knocked out because of her accent, to the harassment of football legend Jakub Błaszczykowski for helping children. What's happening to Polish society? Where does this everyday chauvinism come from? And where have the famously hospitable Poles gone? Let's figure it out in this video. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Friends, thank you so much for your support. Now, let's get straight to the point. A piece of news just came in from Warsaw that honestly makes your hair stand on end. Even for people like me who are used to everything. Grown-up loafers in their 30s started hassling some teenagers in the park, 15-year-olds. It seemed like a typical everyday situation. Give me a cigarette. The kids responded absolutely politely in Polish. We don't smoke, mister. But, you see, the gentleman didn't like their accent. Well, let me hand it over to the lady.
My daughter had her two front teeth knocked out by some Poles just for answering them in Polish with an accent while relaxing in a Warsaw park. All the teenagers were 15 or 16 years old. A group of Poles, 30 and older, was passing by. They asked her if she had any cigarettes, and the kids replied to them in Polish that they don't smoke. The Poles didn't like the accent with which the kids answered them, and the scuffle broke out. One Polish woman grabbed my daughter's phone and hit her in the teeth. That's how she knocked out her two front teeth. A report has been filed with the police, but no one has been found yet. So when I'm asked why we moved from Poland, I have only one answer. It's because we Ukrainians are simply not liked there.
Well, that's how it is. That's how it is, friends. For those who don't understand Ukrainian, I'll explain what happened. An adult woman snatches a phone from a 15-year-old girl and hits her in the face, knocking out her two front teeth. By a strange coincidence, the police didn't find anyone, and the family was forced to pack up and leave the country. Well, we're definitely waiting for your comments. Go ahead and write, those who say this is karma, that it's what you deserve for all that Donbass was being bombed stuff and so on. Write your comments. Let's see how many reasonable people there are. Well, I think bots will show up now, but what can you do? We will analyze this savagery from the perspective of basic human morality and general social processes. I believe that for a crowd of adult fucks to attack children and even use physical violence because of how someone pronounces words is not just some marginal criminal behavior. It's simply degradation and an example of primitive barbarism. When an adult takes out his inner frustration on a child who is completely defenseless, there can be no political, national, or moral justification for this whatsoever. Yeah. Second, where does this behavior come from? This is simply a direct consequence of chauvinism and nationalism, which have been fueled in society for months, maybe even years, by certain forces. When people are told from morning till night that all their problems are caused by newcomers or neighbors with a different accent. For the most unhinged, unstable, and uneducated people, it completely removes any restraint. Nationalism operates the same everywhere. It gives fools the illusion of superiority. Not from achievements, intelligence, or hard work, but just by birth. I was born here, so that means I'm smart and handsome, right? And then this chauvinistic frenzy inevitably turns into domestic violence against the weakest, women and children. I've never seen anyone in a Polish gym come up to some guy, a boxer, and start confronting him about something. No matter how complicated the relations between states are, violence against teenagers because of their accent, this is just insane, and the next step after this is ordinary fascism. If society turns a blind eye to all this, when kids are just beaten in the streets for having their own accent, the problems in that society are at a much deeper and more dangerous level than it seems at first glance. What do you think, friends? What's life like for you in sunny Poland? Do such everyday manifestations of chauvinism ultimately destroy the rule of law? Or are these just isolated marginal incidents that the police for some reason don't want to get involved with? Share your observations in the comments. Well, that's just crazy. It's a total disaster, friends. While some are causing chaos in the streets, others are setting a completely different example. But even here, the reaction of certain members of Polish society makes you seriously question their state of mind, if they have one at all. Wisła Kraków fans, the club itself, as well as Jakub Błaszczykowski with his foundation, Ludzki Gest, Human Gesture, and their partners. They raised money and organized a vacation for 60 Polish children. Well, they are ethnic Poles, but they live in Ukraine. The program included trips to Kraków, Energylandia, Badowice, which is the birthplace of John Paul II, for those who don't know, and the meeting with football players at the R22 stadium. It would seem damn well, okay, it's a good, noble and right thing to do, to help children who don't live very well, to put it mildly, come for a vacation, improve their language skills, and see their historical homeland. But I opened Polish Facebook, and what started there? It was just a whole different circus. Błaszczykowski and the organizers just got a ton of abuse from commenters. The main motive of these patriots was, why not help children from Poland? Why help these half-breeds? They are not even Polish. My eye just started twitching, friends. Let's break down this logic. First of all, when grown adults start foaming at the mouth, dividing children into proper and half-breeds, that's not just nationalism anymore. That's just primitive racism. Kuba Błaszczykowski is a person who earned his reputation through his own hard work, creates social projects, and gets real things done with his own money and funds collected by like-minded people. But some degenerate who sits on the couch, excuse my language, farts and drinks beer, thinks he knows better how and whom to help. I'm sure these degenerates in the comments, who will show up here too, have never given a penny to any good cause. Not a cent, not a hryvnia. Secondly, this kind of reaction perfectly shows how chauvinism erodes basic humanity. People no longer care about the essence of the act. They don't care about helping children. All they care about is fueling hatred. If you help a child, but the child came from abroad, even if he is ethnically Polish, in the eyes of internet radicals, you instantly become what? That's right, a traitor, an enemy. This is a classic example of so-called armchair patriotism, where instead of actually helping your country or people, the easiest path is chosen: bitterness, envy, and insults on the internet. Yes, and for those commenting, aren't there enough poor children in Poland? They say we should help our own first. Oh, charity is not a competition, and it's not about dividing people into categories. If you care so much about children in Poland, then get off the couch, organize a fundraiser like Kuba did, and help. And posting in someone else's charity campaign comments about half-bloods, that's, I'll repeat, it's not some kind of defense of the country's interests. It's just piggishness and the sign of your deep moral degradation. Well, write in the comments what you think. Let's do a roll call. Let's see if there are reasonable people in the comments or not. Why does a harmless, kind campaign for children cause such a wave of anger and aggression among some parts, among some users online? Of course, not all of them. I look at all these friends and I'm just shocked. I simply don't recognize what's happening to Polish society. In 2022, in 2023, this was a completely different society. Where did that Polish hospitality, culture, and basic respect for people go? Poland has long taken pride in its Christian morals, family values and compassion. Yet today, grown men are knocking out children's teeth over their accent, and they even go after a Polish football legend. Well, I don't like those words like football icon, right? But this is Kuba Błaszczykowski, the former captain of the national team. He's being showered with dirt just because he brought fellow Polish children here for vacation. This is just a deep crisis and the loss of humanity, when the fear of political propaganda and armchair chauvinism start to burn even basic decency out of people, and society collapses from within. And it's not external enemies or migrants who are to blame for this, but our own malice, which for some reason some people confuse with patriotism. It's a mess, to put it mildly, my friends. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, guys, think about the backup plan I mentioned this morning. Because nothing suggests that things will get any easier. Take care of yourself and your loved ones. Greetings to the working class. See you next time.